Wonderful.
Your hair, Patrick.
I bet you say that to old people's hair.
It looks particularly finished. I haven't done nearly enough finished jokes yet. Are you finished?
Well,
Nope.
You know what? Don't feel like you have to. Just putting it out there. If you don't feel like it, then it's fine.
You know, some things you never really finish.
No, that wasn't as good.
All right, start Alpha Geek video stream, then do show. Okay.
List
Is
of
that
things.
your checklist?
Yes, that is on the checklist.
Jax, are you still in this office?
Holotwoops is back. So many things. Hey, maybe I'll even remember to record the show today.
Did you forget?
Yeah.
The sound was weird yesterday. Was that why?
Because that was the Alpha Geek radio stream,
Ah.
not the local recording. That's why.
Oh, look. Doggies.
Well, since we're in video.
Oh, yeah. How's Jack's teeth?
They are so bunkum looking. He's missing 4 of them in the front, little tiny teeth. He looks like a first grader.
All right, do you mind starting early, Patrick?
No.
All right, let's get rolling.
Behind go I.
Goodbye. Here we go.
The Daily Tech News Show is brought to you by me. Aw, thanks, me. If you also wish to bring it, go to dailytechnewsshow.com/support. That's dailytechnewsshow.com/support.
This is the Daily Tech News for Tuesday, February 9th, 2016. I'm Tom Merritt. Joining me today, Mr. Patrick Beja. Man, about Finland. How many gigabits do you have? Just the one?
I just the one. Well, I don't know how you want to count it, because I have one going down and half of one going up. So maybe it's 1.5, roughly.
Yeah, total. I hate when they don't give you symmetric. Just give me symmetric. I don't understand.
Right? That's so cheap of them. And I'm paying 40 entire euros for this connection.
How can you live with 500 megabits per second up? I just don't understand.
I don't know. I feel constrained all the time. My life is a constant constraint of half a gigabit.
Patrick's having bandwidth shock. We're going to talk about the fact that maybe gigabit is enough, at least for now. Will it remain enough? That's coming up in the discussion. But let's start off with the headlines. Amazon released a new game engine called Amazon Lumberyard, because you build things with it, pieces. The engine integrates connectivity with AWS Cloud and Twitch, 2 Amazon properties. One feature is Twitch Join In, which allows viewers to join the broadcaster in multiplayer games through the Twitch account. Twitch Chat Play makes chat part of the game. And Amazon also announced Game Lift for developers who want to make session-based multiplayer games, though that product has a per-user fee. Amazon Lumberyard is free.
That is super interesting, because they've been pushing on gaming for a while now with their gaming studios, which they did a couple of pretty significant hires for not so long, a while back. And it's funny how they are always figuring out ways of leveraging what they've done in other areas, or, neighboring areas, to push other products that they're currently using and developing. So this is an unexpected move, but probably a good one.
Yeah, it remains to be seen if Amazon will make their own games using this engine, which I think a lot of people expected that, not a game engine for other developers. And, of course, there's lots of game engines out there like Unity, etc. So it's not automatic that people will pick this up. But I think the Twitch integration was smart for Amazon, and probably will get a few people to at least experiment with it.
Yeah, I mean, Twitch, AWS, etc. It's so clever. They're so sad. They're so clever. Twitter announced that it has formed a trust and safety council charged with making Twitter a place where, quote, anyone, anywhere can express themselves safely and confidently, end quote. 40 contributors from advocacy groups are listed as part of the council, including child protection agencies, anti-racism groups, and groups working to end domestic violence.
So trying to show that they are working on the problem of Twitter harassment seriously by bringing in 40-some groups. together to advise them. Of course, with anything like this, it matters what they do and does it have an effect.
This is the key part of this entire thing. We've seen a lot of people clamoring for a safer Twitter, especially when the rumors about an algorithmic timeline were floating around last week. People were saying, well, you have to do this first. And the problem is, it is really difficult to do. And I've thought about this and talked about this and read about this a lot. And the problem is, most of the solutions that your mind immediately go to play counter to Twitter's other value. And I'm not talking about company value. I mean actually service value that it brings to the world, which is the ability for people to use it as a tool for free speech, which Twitter has been very strongly defending, even in countries where that is difficult. So that's a great PR move. Hopefully it will turn into something that can make Twitter a safer space. It's going to be difficult to balance that and the free speech issue in countries where that's a real problem.
Yeah, but having sensitivity and awareness is not the same as censorship. And I think that's probably what Twitter's looking for is, hey, groups who deal with this all the time, if you just shut things down, you don't necessarily make the problem better because people just open up new accounts. So how do we actually deal with these problems? And there's a lot of groups in here who have learned how to deal with these problems in an intelligent way.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think this is, I don't want to minimize the work that Twitter has to do in that area. It is something that is absolutely lacking for them and detrimental to the users of their service currently. So,
Oculus announced the first Oculus-ready PCs will come from Asus, Alienware, and Dell. Alienware and Dell, same company. Starting February 16th at 8 a.m. Pacific, you can pre-order PC and Rift headset bundles from Best Buy, Amazon, and the Microsoft Store in the U.S. PCs are the Asus G20 and G11, the Alienware Area 51 and X51, and the Dell XPS 8900 SE. The Asus G11 is the cheapest of the bunch at $1,499. For those who already have pre-ordered a Rift headset, you can get offer codes to purchase a bundle in your order status page starting February 16th at the same time, so you might want to sign up for notifications, says Oculus.
Just to clarify, in case it wasn't clear already, $1,500 is the PC alone. That doesn't include the Oculus headset, which is $600. But maybe let's say you get the bundle for $1,900 or $2,000. That's a hefty price. It's still incredibly expensive. I'm not to get back into the discussion, but I still think that Sony, even if their product is less powerful, technologically inferior, has an incredible advantage on the price point. So, I mean, we don't know the price of the PSVR yet, but when it does show up, hopefully they will.
No, I think the bundle price for the G11 is, whoa, I'm looking at the blog post from Oculus. The Asus G11 bundle price is $949. So that implies that with the $600 for the headset, it's $1,500 and $550.
All right. That in that case, that is slightly more interesting of a price. Still expensive, but not horrendously expensive, I guess.
Unless that bundle price means $949 for both, but it can't mean that, can it?
No, that can't be, because the Oculus is over $500, and the graphics card alone that you need to run VR on PC is around $300, sometimes over. So I understand they can get great prices, but I don't think they can get that great prices.
Well, there you go.
All right. We'll clarify this at some point in the distant future. Gmail will start showing an unlocked padlock icon on emails to and from providers that don't support TLS encryption. For any email contact whose identity can be verified, the profile photo will be replaced by a question mark.
Replaced by a question mark is the part that kind of weirds me out there, but knowing that I'm emailing with someone who is not end-to-end secure is very handy to know, because I want to be able to craft my message in a different way. I'm certainly not going to attach anything valuable. I'm not going to say any personal information to those email addresses. You should always assume that email is pretty insecure to begin with. So I guess this doesn't change much for me, but it really is a good thing to note, and I hope more email providers will do this.
Yeah, it's definitely a way that Google can influence basically the way the web works, because it will push at least some providers to start using encryption when they might not have done so before.
Yeah, I'm looking at Best Buy, the Oculus Rift virtual reality headset and desktop, $1,499 combined. So it is for both.
All right. And Ian actually made a very good point in the chat room saying, I don't know, $1,500 compared to a Mac product? And I have to say, it is a good point. They do cost quite a bit, and sometimes more than that. So
yeah.
There you go.
The Mac products do, yeah.
Yes, obviously, yeah. So Patrick stumped.
Google Drive users who complete a security checkup of their account will get 2 gigabytes of extra storage free from Google today. Checkup reviews passwords, two-step verification, apps and devices with access to the account, and account recovery information. The Verge notes Google ran a similar promotion last year, and this year's offer coincides with Safer Internet Day, which, by the way, if you didn't know, today is Safer Internet Day. Thanks to SP Sheridan for posting this on the subreddit.
So 2 gigabytes, is that a lot? Is that something I would...
Hey, it's 2 more gigabytes than you had for a good thing, which is going in and checking on your security account and making sure, like, are all these apps supposed to have access to my account? Do I have two-factor authentication on? Is my password pretty strong? I think you should do it anyway, so the fact that they're giving you 2 free gigabytes is just bonus.
True. I'm also wondering how long it would take me to fill up those 2 gigabytes with my internet.
Well, you have gigabit fiber, so it'll only take you a second.
Well, it's gigabit, not gigabit.
Oh, gigabit, sorry.
Damn it. That would be awesome if I had gigabyte connection.
Gigabyte per second internet. Someday. We laugh, but someday. Gigabit per second internet sounded ridiculous in 2000, and it's here. You're using it.
All right, Google has restored the Adblock Fast plugin for Samsung's Android browser to the Google Play Store today. Rocket Ship Apps, which makes the plugin, appealed the block, and Google reinstated the app without explanation.
Yeah, so no reason why given. My guess is they had an app reviewer get a little bit strict, and so they changed their mind.
Yeah, that's probably why. Makes sense.
Amazon is providing sommelier services in Japan to recommend wine for purchase and delivery from Amazon. You can get a pick based on what you're serving for dinner and what your budget is, and then it's delivered to you. Plus, the sommelier will send an email summarizing your conversation afterwards.
That's kind of cool. It's not because I'm French, but I think it's kind of cool.
How do you properly say sommelier?
Sommelier.
Sommelier.
Yeah.
And you're going to go to Japan. So
I very much appreciate Amazon actually Amazon Japan preparing for my arrival.
This is the interesting thing about services that have a lot of cash, and I know Amazon has thin margins, but the ability to increase purchases by providing the right advice, this is just going to drive sales. I think we're going to get all kinds of personal services like this in the future.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say, actually. I think it's somewhat linked to the discussions you guys have had on the show a while ago about services through chat apps and things like that. And this is, you must always try to find ways to get people to come to you and to give you more money, because some people are going to have that money and they're going to have to choose who to give it to. And this actually provides an interesting, different kind of service for this. It's a good move.
Well, and somebody who's like, I only have $10 to spend, so I want to spend it on good wine, could do that. Or 10 yen, I guess.
Well, 10 yen, you would get a very small amount of wine.
You would get a thimble, that's true.
Google is partnering with India's Central Water Commission to display flood alerts in its apps and site. Users will be able to track floods and check river level information for more than 170 areas. Floods in Tamil Nadu killed 500 people and displaced almost 2 million at the end of 2015.
Yeah, so just a really good thing to know if you live in India, that you can sign up for these alerts and keep an eye on things. The Verge has uncovered patent applications that show Facebook is developing millimeter wave data networks. That's similar to what we were mentioning, Starry Networks, the Czech Kanogia firm. Czech Kanogia is the old Aereo guy, has announced back in January. One patent describes adjusting and routing frequency channel assignments to maximize the entire network from the cloud instead of maximizing each given link. Facebook confirmed to The Verge that the research is part of Internet.org's Connectivity Lab, which aims to roll out connectivity in underserved areas.
That is starting to become really interesting as a piece of technology. I'm very curious to see where it goes.
Yeah, it's a validation of people who were skeptical of the millimeter wave technology that Starry was talking about. Also, these patents haven't been granted to Facebook, so it'll be interesting to see if Starry beat them to it.
Or they were just goofing around, exploring stuff that can't really be used, and now it's getting a light shine on it, shone on it because of Starry in their announcements.
That could be too.
Wired's Jason Tanz wrote a profile of Andy Rubin and his company Playground Global. Rubin wants to create an open platform of hardware and software for intelligent devices. He wants there to be devices that gather real-world data everywhere, not just data from the internet. Rubin says he himself is working on a dash cam to be given away in exchange for data collection.
So he's working on a lot of things, but the one thing he would admit to is a dash cam, very popular in certain parts of the world for verifying that you weren't at fault in an accident. You often see Russian dash cam footage of interesting things. The famous one is the Meteor, and he wants to make a dash cam that he can just give out for free so that more people can access them and use them. And in return, they will map the world around them. There'll be like a fleet of little Google Map cars, except for dashcam.
Yeah, and it's really interesting what he wants to do with all of this data, and his whole approach to, I think we might mention it in our discussion, basically I guess it's the Internet of Things, or the intelligent Internet of intelligent things. I don't know.
It's a combination of it. Rubin's point in this article was people are trying to make the platform and the ecosystem first, and he thinks you need to make the devices first, and then the ecosystem will grow up around it. Use the devices to drive the connectivity between them. I think that's very interesting. Also, Vine is allowing you to edit captions. Bloomberg says it has documents describing how Amazon does want to compete with FedEx and UPS. Class action lawsuit is coming to Apple over Error 53. Google won a patent on self-driving trucks that deliver packages. In India, Google will add flood alerts to its apps. We mentioned that, and websites. And GameTrailers.com shut down today, Patrick.
Oh, yeah, I remember when I used to go to Game Trailers to see, guess what, all the latest game trailers.
Yeah, but I guess all the Let's Play videos have kind of taken the wind out of that. You just see the trailers when they come out in your feeds or on Twitter.
Well, it's basically social networking and YouTube, honestly. But Game Trailers was in bad shape. It had been bought, I think, only a year or two ago, and a lot of its staff had been laid off. And yeah, but you know, that's life. Sometimes websites get out to the yard, and yeah, there you go.
Hey, submit stories and vote on them, folks. DailyTechNewsShow.reddit.com. That's the place where you can tell us what you want to hear on the show. Even just voting on a few stories helps us a lot. Go there, DailyTechNewsShow.reddit.com, and that is a look at the headlines. So we mentioned a couple weeks ago, maybe last week, I can't remember exactly, the state of LTE, where they had the fastest broadband wireless. Akamai puts out a quarterly report on connectivity, reporting on who has the fastest broadband by country. But Patrick, you're not bragging about this, but you are experiencing living with gigabit per second for the first time.
Yeah, and I think it's really important to mention the fact that I'm not bragging. I mean, when I was in Paris and I had 200 down and 20 up, I think, I was kind of really proud of it, and I was bragging at that point. Here, it's almost like I'm ashamed because it's almost like, being rich and coming into a place where everyone's living on $1 a day. And you're like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. And except I can't even give you some of my bandwidth. So I'm honestly not trying to brag. Also, TV Zegon in the chat room is saying that in Minneapolis, they have 10 gigabits per second. So there you go. Some people have faster internet. But it did get me to think about things like, is that 1 gigabit down and 500 megabits up, I am never going to use this. Well, okay, maybe never is a strong word. I don't know what I would use it for. It's kind of, we always chase more bandwidth, but at this point, it's almost like I have a hard time imagining if that isn't too much bandwidth. It's almost an insignificant number at this point. It could be, I was perfectly fine with 200 down, 20 up. I don't know what I could be using this for now. Is there a use for gigabit internet?
Well, I think why it's probably sticking out to you so much is that you are in a situation where, for the first time, you have more bandwidth than you can use. You don't necessarily fill up the pipes like you used to. And that is an unusual state for most of the world. Now, places like Korea and Singapore have had super fast internet for a long time, consistently, but I think most people have been dealing with just good enough internet. At the same time, going all the way back to the late 90s when DSL at 128K was feeling blistering fast, we always figure out what to do with the bandwidth. So it may be a good thing that you're in a country where bandwidth is actually ahead of the needs of everyone. It's one of the complaints that the carriers have in the United States is they say, look, nobody wants gigabit fiber yet. There's no use for it. But those uses are coming. Virtual reality, augmented reality, the Internet of Things. Andy Rubin wants to fill the world with all of these devices. And granted, they're not collecting data off the Internet, but they'll be using the Internet to report back 4K video, 8K video, 8K 360-degree VR video.
I put that one in. But
we will come up with uses for the bandwidth. I think gigabit is not the cap, but I wonder, is there a point where we have all the bandwidth that we need?
I do wonder that as well. And even, 4K is the one that people usually go to because, yes, in the future, I don't want to look 10 years down the line because we don't know what's going to happen, but at a reasonable, looking forward at a reasonable time in the future, 4K is what, 30 megabits that you need to stream 4K. A gigabit, you can do what, 30 of them, 30 concurrent 4K streams. And I don't know. I mean, 8K. If you can, the reason I'm going there is that I'm trying to imagine, because even when we had ADSL, we could see a world where we would need all of that bandwidth and more because we could imagine streaming video. Here, the most bandwidth consuming thing I can imagine is probably streaming VR content. So you would need high definition 360 videos all around you, and that's the biggest thing I can imagine. I don't know that even that would require a gigabit. So yeah. The question is, I guess we can't really answer it, can we? Are we ever going to need a gigabit?
Yes, we will need a gigabit probably within 2 years. I'm looking at the pattern, right? And every time we think, oh, you know what? A megabit per second. Sorry, that's plenty. Why would I need more? Well, now I need 10 megabits per second. And it's two opposing things. One is people were saying you'll never have enough bandwidth to run Netflix streaming. It'll never succeed. We were hearing this when we were reporting on Netflix streaming on Buzz Out Loud in the mid-2000s. People said you'll never have enough bandwidth, and bandwidth continues to roll out, not as fast as we all want it, but it continues to improve over time. The other thing I'm thinking of is I remember on the screensavers back in probably 2000 running a question of, is a gigahertz processor more than we'll ever need? And people on the show were saying, like, we'll never need more than a gigahertz processor. That's ridiculous. and now we have 2 gigahertz processors standard. So every time we say this is way more than we need right now, we figure out a way to fill it up.
I would actually argue that point with you about the power, the computing power we have, and other similar numbers that we've been throwing at computers for a while. I think, for example, RAM-wise, 16 is, I'm not saying ever, but at this point, we have reached a very long plateau where 16 gigs, unless you have a very specific type of use for it, it's probably enough. For your hard drive, if you have 4 terabytes or something like that, you're probably going to be fine for a good long while. Even if you take, pictures of every day, everything that happens, you're going to have a lot of space to store those things. Same with computing power in the PCs and in the mobile phones, actually. I honestly believe that one of the issues of those devices is that you don't have an incentive to buy a new one, because the one you have, honestly, in the past couple of generations, in the case of the mobiles, they're kind of okay. I'm not saying it's gonna be okay until the end of time, but we've reached a plateau, and I'm wondering if we aren't going to see a similar plateau at some point with bandwidth as well. For most of the world, we're really far from that plateau.
Well, and I think that's what I'm saying is, yeah, we will get to a point, maybe it's 10 gigabits per second, maybe it's 100 gigabits per second, where the speed of your connection won't matter anymore. It'll be entirely commoditized, and you will just hook up to the internet, and that's all you need, the way you hook up to electricity and water. You don't worry about the flow rates of your water in most cases, with exceptions in parts of the world that have water issues, obviously. I think that is where we're going to get, but I think the difference we have is I think we're at gigahertz processors with gigabit internet right now, which is, I don't think we've hit all of the things we can use it for. I see people complaining that, oh, you know what, I run so many different objects, and so many different objects meaning an Xbox, a Roku, a laptop, and a desktop, that it sometimes when they're all updating, it slows down my bandwidth. Having done enough Skype and Hangouts over the year, I will be greatly surprised if we don't find ways over the next few years to fill up the bandwidth available. So I guess the question is, do you think a gigabit per second is the all we'll need, or what do you think it will end up being?
Well, as you have, I've seen enough of those types of stories in the world of tech to be cautious and not say a gigabit will be anything we ever need, and then someone will come to me and say, all right, a gigabit is everything you will ever get, and I'll say, no, I want to keep my options open. But I honestly think that a gig is probably at that plateau level that you think might be a little bit higher. And we've been talking about all of these incredible numbers for bandwidth for a while now. I just wanted to mention the fact that I was entirely ready to jump on the US's infrastructure and basically belittle my American friends and pointing and laughing about their very low average connection speeds. And I dug into that report we got from Akamai and realized, to my great surprise and dismay, that actually both the average and peak speeds are lower in France than they are in the US. I was very surprised by this. Now, granted, they're kind of abysmal in both countries. They're really low in the rankings for countries that should be, at the top of infrastructure development. But yeah, I was really surprised that France wasn't higher than the US, which is notably known for not a great infrastructure, or at least that's how I think of it.
Well, I think it's all relative, right? Everyone expects the United States, because we have Silicon Valley, to possibly have the best internet. Because this is where the internet was developed, at DARPA, and so it's sometimes frustrating to people, especially in the United States. That you're like, "What? We're not number 1. We're number 16." But number 16 is still faster than a large part of the world.
Yeah, so, for sure. And And I also want to mention that it might also be the reason why I was so surprised about this was it's available, but I think it's more expensive in the U.S.
Yeah, I'd be curious.
My
guess would be that it is. Yeah.
Yeah. More expensive, and you hear about things like data caps on wired connections, which we don't have to worry about, at least in France, and things like that. And I also wanted to conclude our discussion by saying that, again, in Finland, coming back to one of the best equipped countries, we have a very decent level of infrastructure in very dense areas like the city of Helsinki, but also, as I mentioned when I was there, in the countryside, really not densely populated, not dense population at all. It also has some pretty decent level of equipment and infrastructure, because there was an ability for the community to get together and finance the infrastructure. So I think this is, you always hear people saying, well, we can't really do this in a densely inhabited area because of this. Yeah. Well, in densely, it's a problem for mobile, and in sparsely, it's a problem for wired. And yet, somehow, Finland manages to do it in both cases with different vectors, different actors, but still. So I really think it's important to understand that it is possible, and that if whoever says it's not possible says so, there might be, not always, but there might be other reasons behind it.
No one's ever saying it's not possible. They're saying it's not economical.
Well, I guess that's true, but you also get people or companies in the U.S. specifically saying, well, we can't let communities equip this area, which is not financially
viable. But they're not saying,
because
what they're saying when they make those laws, the argument they're making is this will drive the price up. There's not a demand for this, and if you let the government come in and roll it out, then it will be unfair competition to us. I'm not saying I buy that argument, but right. They're not saying it's impossible. They're saying you're going to make it more costly if you do that.
I guess, and to an extent it might be true, but I think that experience proves, in Finland at least, that it is possible, and that in those cases...
Well, yeah, Chattanooga, Tennessee, I think that Minneapolis 10 gigabit, the TVZ gun is talking about, are also examples of communities getting gigabit.
Exactly. Just wanted to remind everyone of this, because it's important when we're talking about gigabit internet and all of this in a world where the average is around 5 to 10 megabits. So.
All right, let's get to our pick of the day. It comes from Jesse, a.k.a. Hometown Rival. He's the one who actually maintains the spreadsheet of all the picks. So his pick will now go into the pick spreadsheet that he maintains on our picks page at dailytechnewsshow.com/picks. And he's saying Apple Maps. He lives in Indianapolis, and he loaded up Waze and Apple Maps after an overnight snowfall to see which route would be the best. Both showed a delay compared to the normal drive time, along with the same recommended route. However, Waze said I would arrive at work 20 minutes faster than Apple Maps' estimate, and after my venture to work was over, Apple Maps ended up proving the correct route. After repeat experiences of this nature, it became clear that Waze was no longer as trustworthy as I thought, and he likes the fact that Apple Maps will pause spoken audio. So if he's listening to a podcast and Apple Maps speaks a direction, like turn right in 100 feet, it pauses the audio before it gives the direction and then restarts the audio afterwards, which, by the way, Android does as well when you're using Waze and Pocket Casts.
Yeah. It's really interesting, because I was out and about in the town today, and I needed to find a pharmacy, and I opened my phone and hovered over the Apple Maps app, and then I actively thought, you know what, I just want to be sure that I'm going to get the most accurate piece of data, and I went to Google Maps. So,
but Jesse's saying in Indianapolis, Apple Maps is more accurate. So
no, I know.
Kind of depends on where you go.
Yeah, absolutely, and it might have been good in Helsinki as well. I'm just saying the power of that initial blunder with Apple Map is still resonating with me today. Maybe it shouldn't.
Send your picks to us, folks. Feedback at dailytechnewsshow.com. You can find more picks at dailytechnewsshow.com/picks. Thanks to Jesse. Mike Kepper enjoyed our conversation about brick and mortar stores. He says, I doubt Amazon will open a brick and mortar in my area, maybe in Carbondale, Illinois, but I won't be a visitor. I haven't visited a mall in years. I even order some groceries online as well as plenty of online shopping. I prefer home shipping. I do price check online with Amazon and Walmart and other companies, and physical stores do not appeal to me. Before Amazon, I did shop at B. Dalton's and Walden Books, but their downfall is that they only give a 10% discount. Amazon gave 40 to 50% and killed them off for me.
Well, I'm guessing that the Amazon physical stores are not targeted to you.
No, yeah. And I think they're going to have to figure out how to make them work for someone like that. And we've talked about the idea of them putting lockers in there so you could have your items picked up, or being in there to look at an item so you can get a chance to play with it, and then having it shipped to your house.
I don't know. I don't think so. I think they're targeting very different people. The kind of people that do not do what Mike does and prefer home shipping. The people who still enjoy going out and to a physical store, which I'm not part of that group.
But sometimes you want to see the item even before you order it, and this would give you the best of both worlds, possibly.
Yeah, sometimes. Yeah, there are some people that just, me included, if I don't have to go out, I'm fine. I'm just going to get everything delivered.
Russell said on Friday's show, Molly and Scott were discussing the concept of building in VR, and it made me think about the potential for architecture. One of the things about designing a space or a building is that you're not working at actual scale, so the process can be a bit abstract. How great would it be if you could build a building or space virtually at real scale? Thinking this might really improve the process and allow for better human-scaled environments to be created. And Russell, I think, works in the industry, so the kind of thing that would help him out and his coworkers.
Yeah, I think there are enormous amounts of applications of VR and AR, if it ever gets its act together, for these kinds of uses. It's going to be, I think, I would be less surprised. I think VR is going to take off, but I think it's even more likely to take off for those specialized uses than for general everyday use for regular consumers.
But it's going to use up all your bandwidth if it does.
That's
it for this episode of the Daily Tech News Show. Thank you, Patrick Beja. As always, you can find your great works at FrenchSpin.com. Go, folks. Check out FrenchSpin.com. Follow Patrick on Twitter, twitter.com/notpatrick. What do you have going on these days?
I guess Pixels is the video gaming show that I produce. The latest episode was recorded yesterday with our good friend Garrett Weinzroll, and we're recording tomorrow an episode of Overwatchers that can be found at amove.tv, Garrett's site, where we're going to detail everything about the Overwatch beta that just came back today.
Excellent. I actually got into the Overwatch beta this time at a point where I'm not able to play it for a couple of days.
Well, you know what?
So I can explain some more, but then I'll actually get to play it. How long does it go? How long does this beta go this time?
It's gonna. Well, the last one was a month and a half, so I think you're gonna have time.
So I'll have a chance to start playing it and then be that person. Good.
I think there are going to be a lot of people that are that person. It's fine. You'll be fine. Just play it.
Check it out, FrenchSpin.com, folks. Thanks to all the folks who are supporting the show at Patreon. You are getting us to having more episodes. We're going to have a day 6 with Peter Wells from Australia. So he'll record it on his Monday, but it'll come out on our Sunday for a 6th day. We're just $11 away from doing that twice a month. So check it out, patreon.com/DTNS. If you get $1 worth of value or more out of the show, all we ask is that you give us that amount back. Stay tuned on the audio version for more contributions from DTNS community, travel tech, and tech in trade. Our email address is feedback@dailytechnewsshow.com. Call us 512-59-DAILY. It's 593-2459. Catch the show live Monday through Friday at 4:30 p.m. Eastern at alphageekradio.com and diamondclub.tv. And visit our website, dailytechnewsshow.com. We will be from Convey UX with special guest Jacob Nielsen. Talk to you tomorrow.
I missed a wonderful opportunity.
The show is part of the Frog Pants Network. Get more at...
Sorry.
The show is part of the Frog Pants Network. The show is part of the Frog Pants Network. Get more at frogpants.com.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.
And the hilarious thing is I really didn't even need to do that because Big Jim put those in his Tech and Trade. I don't know what I was. I forgot that for a second. So don't feel bad.
Well, I did a little bit, but also it was funny. The chat room got a laugh out of it. Yeah, I missed an amazing opportunity of telling you, well, you know, if you listen to Overwatchers, you're just going to be fine and get started perfectly on Overwatch.
Yeah, that's true. Watch Overwatchers or listen to Overwatchers.
Overwatchers, would you like some showbot titles?
Yes, please.
All right, we've got 1.51 gigabits, which makes me happy.
That's pretty amazing.
We've got one that probably we're not going to use because it's a little check your bandwidth privilege. Wow, people on Twitter are mean. Let's see, what else? Amazon the Lumberjack. How about Patrick's wallet is too small for all his 50s and his diamond shoes are too tight? That's not in there. I just made that up. I didn't make that up. That's from Friends. But I just applied that to this situation.
I'm really not bragging, guys.
Gigabits.
Yeah. I like it because only people from Back to the Future will know that you're supposed to say it. 1.51 gigawatts! Bits!
Gigabits!
Gigabits!
The only people from the future.
Oh yeah, we're gonna have the guy from Hannibal doing Star Trek too.
That's pretty
Also
cool
the guy from Deep
news.
Space Nine, I guess.
Yep, Brian Fuller. That's still just a web show, right?
Just a web show.
I mean, I'm sorry.
Oh my god, I can't believe you just said that.
Let me restate that. That's still only being broadcast via the internet, correct? And not on a network TV station? Because my second thought was, it's super cool that Brian Fuller is doing something only on the internet.
Yeah. I mean, it's like Brian Fuller doing Netflix, except he's doing it for CBS. Oh, jeez. My level lighting finished when I wasn't looking. Apparently Hannibal is amazing.
Yeah.
The show?
Yeah. No, the town in Missouri. Town in Missouri is okay. Especially if you read Gun Girl. Gun Girl. So 1.51 gigabits, we good?
Yeah.
1.51 gigabits!
Why did our audio suddenly go to crap?
Fine for me.
It's all echoey.
Is it? You were echoey a little bit earlier, but...
Hello, hello. All right, now it's better.
It's me.
Oh.
And that's why I don't turn on my mic till after the show's over.
All right, so what are the show notes?
They're the notes we put in after the show that tell you where to find the links.
No, actually, I meant the patch notes for Overwatch. Sorry.
The patch notes.
Yes, patch notes.
What is Overwatch?
Overwatch is the Blizzard's latest game. It's a PvP. It's an FPS, competitive FPS, and the beta was up at the end of last year. It went away in December, and it just came back 2 months after. So everyone's excited.
Cool. Shocker, Star Wars gave Disney its best quarter in company history.
You don't say.
Yeah.
Shocker indeed.
Shocker. Yeah, tonight's Agent Carter. Whee! And have you guys, I don't know, Patrick, if it's available yet in Finland, but have you guys been watching at all the FX American crime story about O.J. Simpson? Holy pizzow.
People versus OJ, is that it?
Yeah, I watched it last night, and it was amazing in a way that I did not expect it to be that good.
Is it amazing even if you don't really know or care about OJ?
Yep.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
Was it like where there was a sudden epiphany because all these things you didn't realize had occurred, like they kind of...
It's more like all the little bits and pieces that were scrapped together in the first draft of history, journalism, are now put out in a very compelling story. I mean, and it has very sympathetic characters in places you wouldn't expect. Not OJ, just spoiler.
Kato?
But what? Was
Kato at all sympathetic?
Too early to tell. He's in it, but it's too early to tell. But it was really, Matt and I were like, oh, we're not going to watch an hour and a half, and then we were like, our eyes were glued. It was so good. So add it to your peak podcast list or peak TV list. For Tom. Tom's fading. Fading out of frame. Lesai. You should air, Tom, and go.
I'm just watching the export bar. It's so fun.
Yeah, you look like a man who's watching the export bar.
I'm having fun with doing it too, I'm sure. All right, yeah, we're gonna end up early, but thanks everybody for watching. We'll talk to you later.